With our dataset generation complete, we now need to take every record in that dataset, which we're going to refer to as a test case. So we're going to take each test case and merge it with a prompt. We're then going to take the result and feed it into Claude. And then once we have all these different outputs, we're going to feed them through our grader. Remember, we have not discussed graders just yet. Don't worry, that's going to come up very quickly. And once again, just to save a little bit of time, I have written out a little bit of code here just to help guide this next phase of our workflow. I put together 3 separate functions with a very clear comment on what each one does. The first one that's easiest to understand is the run prompt function. This is going to be called with a test case. And those JSON objects that we generated just a moment ago, each of these is a test case. So you can imagine that each of these, one by one, are going to flow into the run prompt function. So inside of here, our goal is to merge that task that we generated with our prompt, generate some text with Claude, and then return the result. So let's do that right away. I'm going to put in my V1 prompt right here, which is very simple. Remember, we are starting off as simple as possible here. So it'll just say something like, please solve the following task. And I want this to be a F string, and I'm going to put in test case task. Next up, we want to send this off to Claude. So I'll make a list of messages. I'll add in a user message. I'm then going to pass this off to Claude by calling chat. And we're going to get back some resulting text, some result, or maybe we'll call it output this time around. And then for right now, I'll just return the output. Now, remember, we don't have any kind of formatting included or any formatting instructions inside the prompt right now. So we're going to probably get back a lot more output than we ever asked for. The real goal of our prompt is to make sure that we get just Python or JSON or that regular expression. And we don't have anything for that right now, so we'll almost definitely have to come back and make some improvements. But for right now, we at least have a start to run prompt. The next thing we're going to work on is run test case. The goal of this function is to take in one of those individual cases, call the run prompt function we just put together, get some output from Claude, and then grade the result and return a dictionary describing everything that happened there. Now, that sounds really complicated, but in reality, it's going to be surprisingly simple. So let me show you all we have to do here. We're going to put in output. That's going to come from calling the function that we were just working on a moment ago. So this run prompt function. Put in our test case, and then we're going to do some grading right here. That's going to be a to do. For right now, I'll just say that we have a hard-coded score of 10. So we definitely have to come back and do a lot of heavy lifting right there. And then at the bottom, we're just going to return some information that summarizes everything about running this test case. So I will return a dictionary with some output. It's going to be whatever we got back from Claude. I'll include the test case, and then our score. And then one final step here, we have to implement run eval. So this function is going to load up our data set or receive it as an argument. Either one is fine. And then we're going to loop through that data set. And for every test case, we will call run test case and then just assemble all the results together. So for our implementation here, I'll say results. It's going to start off as an empty list. And for every test case in data set, I'm going to get our result from calling run test case and passing the test case to it, and then add that into our list of results. And then down here, I'm just going to print up all of our results. Actually, you know what? Let's actually just go ahead and return results. I think that's a little bit better. Okay, so there's the outline for our 3 major functions. Now, believe it or not, this is like a vast majority of what a eval pipeline is. We just put together the vast majority, with the obvious exception of grading. So as you can see, there's not a whole lot of code that goes into this. Let's now test this out. So down here in the next cell down, I'm going to open up our dataset JSON file. And parse it as JSON. And then call the run eval function. That's the one that we were just putting together right here with the entire data set. Finally, I'm going to assign the result of that to results. I'm then going to rerun all the cells above just to make sure that I executed all of them. And then I'm going to run this cell. We'll see what happens. And just so you know, the first time you run this, it is going to take a pretty good amount of time, even if you are using Haiku. It's going to end up taking me about 31 seconds to complete this with Haiku. I'm going to show you some techniques for speeding up our eval runtime, but for right now, we're just going to have it take a little bit longer, but don't worry, we will speed it up. So now let's take a look at results and see what we have. Results is going to be a rather large JSON object, so I'm going to print it out really nicely with a print JSON dumps with results and an indent of 2. There we go. So now we get an array of objects. Every object represents the output from one of our individual test cases. I've got the output right here. That's the output coming from Claude. And we can see there is a lot of stuff generated here. And if I scroll down a little bit, I'll see the definition of the test case that this was based upon, and then the score, which again, right now is just hard-coded at 10. And then that's just going to repeat over and over again. All right, so at this point in time, we have successfully gone through this step right here. We merged together our data set with our test prompt, and we got some output from Claude, and we kind of collated all this stuff together. So now the last thing we really have to do here is take the input and the result that we got out of Claude and feed it into one of these different graders. So this finally is the time where we're going to start to learn about graders. We're going to start to discuss them in the next video.